How you doing? This is Ryan Braswell with Local Realty, and we are here on Ask the Locals with Katy Jurgens, and she is with Classic Insurance Company. She is a sales rep and actually handles my homeowners policies and all of our insurance personally. She's so wonderful at what she does that wanted to have her on to chat with everybody. Katy, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Can't complain at all. It's wonderful to have you. So one of the questions that I like to start with, is how did you get into your profession?
Well, my husband is a real estate attorney, and I used to work in his office, and the one thing we could never get was homeowners insurance to make sure a closing went through. Saw a need for it, and I went into it, and luckily a lot of loan officers and other salespeople have said, this is great, perfect, you know what we need. So
it's awesome.
It was a good choice.
And how long ago did that happen? When did you get your start?
It's been about 7 years.
About 7 years, okay. Now, like I mentioned, you're our insurance agent or sales rep, whichever you want to call it. Tell everybody a little bit about what you did to help my family.
I had 48 clients have their policies all of a sudden be told that they would not have coverage in 27 days.
27 days, isn't that wonderful?
Isn't that great? Love it. So love it. So unfortunately for them, we were put in a situation where we had to kind of almost be an emergency. I rewrote every policy. There was another company called Interborough that they were allowing them to move to, but they had no information about it. There were no phone number to call. There was nothing to ask any questions.
Amazing customer service.
So I did not feel that was comfortable for my clients to move to. So I replaced coverage for every one of them. It was 7 days a week, 12-hour days. My husband learned how to cook and do laundry again, and he held down the house, so that was great. That's what I did. I actually moved every one of my clients to a new company with the best price that we could have, with the best coverage. And luckily, that situation is kind of over for now until they start sending back refunds, which still hasn't been done.
Yeah, I saw in the news that there's a lot of people are going to be just left in the lurch from claims and stuff. Is that what's going on?
I don't know. They haven't even given us a phone number to contact anyone who's taken over UPC.
Very interesting. Does it seem like somebody's going to take over it, or just
the Guarantee Association in Florida, because they're Dominic in Florida, is supposed to be taking it over? But there's no contact information. It was told after March 29th, give us 60 days before we even begin to look at anything, and then we'll start contacting. So unfortunately, they've given us with no information as well.
Okay, so now every UPC policyholder has had to find different coverage, and now they're just waiting for their prorated?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. 22,000 policies in New York.
That's amazing. 22,000 policies.
In New York. Not including Florida, Georgia, or any of the big states they were in.
So New York was not a big state that they were in?
They were just a small little smidge.
That's incredible. So this obviously is a big challenge that you face in the market and that clients face. What do you suggest is the most important thing that people should do to make sure that they're lined up with home insurance or any policy that they needed and had through UPC?
I always say have an agent you can contact. So sometimes some of these big companies that you don't get one person on the phone that kind of farm out their policies, that's not where I personally think you should go. So whether it be me or someone else, you need an agent you can call and speak to and have review your policies. Even just something as simple as that, if you have a fire, you call someone, you're getting a different person every time. Personally, I wouldn't want to deal with that if it was my house.
Sure, I agree with that. And I know a lot of my clients as well it's always a complaint. What we call it, we got to speak to a robot first, or we're always talking to somebody else who has to review the file and talk to a supervisor or whatever it may be, because there's no one person that manages all those files.
Correct.
So you personally have your hand in touch base with every client that you have.
I think my text messages started at 7:30 this morning.
I'm not surprised.
Which is fine, because I tell them, contact me for everything. So I like when they do that.
It's customer service, and that's one of the things that we're very simpatico in how we handle things. If you need me, you can get a hold of me. Maybe in the middle of something, but I will get right back to you as soon as I can, because that's the business we're in. It's
Correct.
That customer service business.
Definitely bundling right now. Unfortunately, we've had some very, very, very big rate increases in New York in the past 6 months. I'm not recommending people switch carriers just due to price.
Okay, so kind of because of like that loyalty kind of bonus, that kind of
No, because a lot of the carriers, now that UPC went out, they were taking in so much more business. They don't want all that business.
Too much liability on their house, so they're kind of raising the rates to say, all right.
Correct. Okay. So unfortunately, a lot of them come out, they do an inspection, and they will find anything wrong to not stay on the policy. So for right now, I'm telling everybody to kind of stay where it is. Let's maybe increase the deductible. Let's maybe review contents coverage. Let's maybe make changes in other areas to save money, or bundling. There's a lot of people that maybe didn't have their auto with me, now they do, and they get a nice little discount on their homeowners as well.
So now the bundling and whatnot, are there any misconceptions with it? Is it something that is it because, hey, we're using just one carrier, or, is it something that, is kind of just a...
Yes. Unfortunately, they did really good with the bundling commercials, so everyone thinks that no matter what, you save money with bundling. It's not always true. Sometimes it is, but you do have to look at it as bundled and also separate. It only makes sense if it makes sense.
Sure.
So I tell people that all the time. So I won't ask you to switch your company if you're going to pay more money. To me, it doesn't make sense unless there's more coverage or there's something different with it. A lot of companies don't have to be the same either. So just because your home is with one company doesn't mean your auto has to be with that company. But a lot of the homeowner companies will give you a discount if the auto is controlled by the same agent, even if it's different companies.
I got you. That was going to be a follow-up question that I had, so you took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, I knew you were coming for it.
Katie's on top of it. See, this is why we love her. She knows all of her stuff. So what's the best way to determine the amount of coverage they need? Because, we all have a lot of different electronics and expensive things in our home. How should somebody kind of go through and say, hey, this is what I need for coverage?
I tell people to go backwards. Go into each room. Look at your furniture. Look at your TVs. Look at the stuff in the cabinets. Put a price tag on every room and what you think it would be to replace that stuff. Now, don't look at it as what you'd pay for that couch now, and maybe you wouldn't buy a couch for $6,000 because your couch is old. But if your couch is damaged, you need to pay $6,000 for a new couch. So go backwards into everything, and I think that's a good way to kind of back yourself into the number for content.
Okay.
If you have expensive items like jewelry or artwork or antiques or specific line items, you want to make sure you speak to an agent to make sure those don't have to be added separately as an individual item on your policy.
Now, for those individual items, do you need appraisals or anything like that, or receipts?
Depending on the objects.
Okay.
So usually you do need some type of proof to show the value, because you'd be surprised at how many people have a Monet hanging in their house when they have a fire.
And it is quite funny how many people, when something does go wrong, there's two, or there's something a little like, oh, that's the never discovered Rembrandt.
Yes, yes.
I'm sure it is. I'm
yes,
sure it is.
Exactly.
Now, what are the main key factors that will affect rates for a homeowner, for or any insurer?
Credit, distance to coast, and claims history.
Okay.
So those are three big ones. If you have good credit, sometimes it's not always regular credit based like financial credit. Sometimes it's also homeownership credit. They rate it in different ways. They don't always exactly tell us what that is. It's insurance. Like
proprietary.
Everybody knows that we like to confuse people. So that's one thing. Within 1 mile on the North Shore, 2 miles on the South Shore is considered a coastal home. Again, I know this is not always logic, but this is how they rate it.
Now, regarding the coastals and stuff, I know, post Sandy and stuff, they're talking about redoing the firm maps and everything. Mm-hmm. Is that something that, is actually happening right now? Or
they actually did it last year. So they did a whole new revamp of the federal flood program, and that's something new. Also now, which not everybody knows, you can use private flood insurance. It doesn't just have to be the FEMA insurance. That the mortgage companies have to allow you to use that. A lot of them don't know that. So sometimes you have to bring it to their attention and ask if it's okay. Sometimes that's better with price, sometimes it's not. So you might want to look at all the numbers.
Sure. Now, I remember, there used to be, and a lot of people lost this because of Irene and then Sandy, and making a small claim and then a big claim. If you don't have two claims in a 10-year given period, mm-hmm. You qualify for a preferred flood insurance rate, correct?
Correct. On flood, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I know it used to be around $400 or something a year.
It's probably about $700 now, $750.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's excellent. Very, very good info if you do live near the water. I didn't realize it was 1 mile basically from the North Shore, which is kind of, seems extreme given the elevation in some of the areas.
It's not logic, as I tell my customers, because if you have water come in and you are 350 feet up on the bluff, we have bigger problems than flood insurance.
Yes, we do, and it probably won't be a South Shore at that point.
Yes, exactly. So it really just depends. But sometimes these carriers, it's just their guidelines, and it's, like I said, it's not logic. They just take a ruler out, and that's just all they know.
That's why you need to hire local professionals who understand the needs on Long Island, because we are an extremely unique market. And
absolutely.
So, as you're going through, what are there any determining factors that help determine what providers you work with?
The ones that I find easy to deal with, the ones that respond to my clients if they have claims, things like that. The underwriters that will work with me. A lot of these home inspections come back. Some of them are very fixable. As long as an underwriter trusts the fact that I trust my clients and they trust me and they ask for things and I get them, then I'll use them. If I feel like they're not going well, I won't use them. UPC, something was wrong. We could see it. That it was just very weird.
Switched.
Yeah, you'd call them, you'd wait on hold 45 minutes to get a live person, as opposed to it used to be maybe 5 to 10. And I stopped writing business for them probably about 18 months to almost 2 years before they actually announced their bankruptcy.
Oh, wow. Smart way to stay on top of that. I mean, that's, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to be out a lot of money,
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I don't know. I don't have any reason to believe that yet, but I haven't been given any direction. They're supposed to be getting back their
You got 60 more days,
payments.
right? Of just about.
We have the 29th. We're getting there. We're getting there. So I hope not, because, I had one neighbor who had a house fire. They're not my client. They used a very big company. One of which does not have an agent. She did not really know that the policy was being canceled because they didn't reach out to any of their clients.
So it lapsed. They were no longer covered, and then they found out.
She's on a builder's risk now, and her claim, a full-on house fire, the entire just
Burned to the ground.
Burned to the ground, and she's mid-construction, and she called her claims person and got the voicemail letting them know that the department's been let go.
Oh, wow.
So she is just sitting there waiting, and the house is not having any construction done. She has 3 children. She'd like to get back in her home. And unfortunately, I would love to be able to help her, and I've tried, but I'm getting the same wall that she's getting.
Sure, of course. It just sounds like a complete, utter collapse, almost like the Silicon Valley Bank, but for an insurance company in a way.
Yes.
So now you mentioned your neighbor had a total loss.
Yes.
Regardless of the type of claim, is there anything, what are some mistakes or things to avoid when filing a claim?
I don't know if there's any mistakes. If it's something small, you might want to get an estimate first before you call in a claim.
Kind of pay it out of pocket, maybe?
Depending on what it is. I had one person that I was speaking to with this UPC, and he had 2 claims, one of which he got paid out $700 on. The house is valued at $1 million. Doesn't seem proportionate to file a claim. I always tell people, call me first, and I'll tell you, let's figure out what we're going to do. You don't need to file a claim the moment it happens. You have time. As long as you don't wait too long, they will respond, because they do want you to do your due diligence. So I would say, call me, let's figure it out. Let's get maybe a plumber in there, whoever it is. Let's get an estimate. Let's find out what the total damage is. That gentleman, I said, why didn't your agent tell you not to file that claim? I can't put you anywhere because you have 2 claims in 3 years, one of which you only got $700 for.
That's incredible.
So that's 3 dinners out.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
In a year.
On $1 million home,
yeah,
too.
and that's why I was like, just be careful with that. Call your agent. Make sure you tell them, because sometimes when you call the claims number, it goes in as a claim, even if it's just a question.
Wow.
So call your agent. That is what they're there for. If you have an agent that doesn't want you to call them all the time, you're with the wrong agent.
Sure. So that would be a red flag, is that communication. It seems like a big, kind of recurring theme here for our conversation.
Yes.
So this is obviously a way you set yourself apart from other insurance providers by being available, being good standing with communication with yourself, your clients, and your providers. What are some other red flags from a provider if they kind of start putting you through? What should people avoid?
I just don't like when you call someone, you can't get anyone on the line, or they want you to. I personally don't like companies that want you to self-serve yourself completely. Some people like
take
that.
all the photos and do everything of your claims and stuff?
Like if you want your paperwork, you can make yourself an online portal and get it yourself.
Oh.
You can't send me my declarations page or my ID card. No, you can set yourself up with a portal and you can access them all, like you're doing me a favor. Yeah. If I'd like to do that, that's a great option to have. Some of these older people too, they don't like that. Sure. They don't know how to set up an online portal. Some of them don't even have emails. So I just don't like when people force you to do that. And I know it's a way to not pay someone to do it. And I just don't like that. We make good money.
It's nickel and diming is what it becomes.
Absolutely. You make money if you work hard. You don't need to cut out everybody else. And then you probably got rid of 2 or 3 jobs.
It's amazing what people try to cut corners and what actually ends up happening and whatnot.
Yeah.
As soon as somebody says, "Oh no, you've got to do all the work and figure it out," and it's like, okay, well, is it form T48-1 or T48-2? You just have no idea.
Exactly.
What you're looking for.
And then, who's your agent you work with at that company? You don't know, because the person does not pick up the phone. There is no person.
They're just a name on a wall.
No,
basically.
they're not. You're not even getting a name. You're not even getting a name. So make sure you have an agent you can talk to that you're comfortable with. If your house burns down and you're standing in front of your house, you should be comfortable with the person you're calling.
100%. So now we kind of touched on it a little bit. How is technology impacting the insurance industry, aside from, giving you headaches when somebody calls you to fix another company's problem, like, hey, how do I do this and that?
My personal belief, and I have my office staff that I also push this on, is do customer service. If someone calls you in to make a payment and they're getting confused with the technology, make the payment for them. It takes us less than 7 seconds. There's no reason you can't just go above and beyond. The person's comfortable. It's comfortable giving you a credit card. Do the payment for them, you know? There's a lot of new things coming out. We're actually in the process of switching our software program, so everyone will have their own access to their online portal.
If they choose.
If they want it.
Not forced.
And I was gonna say no to it, but it's included and free with the software we're buying, so if people want that, they can do that. I won't let them make any changes just because sometimes they can make mistakes.
But they can access everything.
But they can access it, right. I don't want them switching cars and doing stuff like that because then they might have a problem with DMV and fines. And
Sure.
so I just want to make sure we do that correctly.
Okay, and that's understandable. And again, top-notch customer service on that. So inevitably there are disputes and there are claims and things that happen. So what's the general process? How do you guys handle that?
Most times claims have to be called in by the client directly to the company.
And what time frame? I mean, you mentioned like a time frame before. How does that kind of affect?
I would say probably within 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's what I would say. I have some people calling in 6-7 months later. It leaves a little room for questioning.
Yeah, it might be a little deterioration and weathering. And
It might have not been, yeah, exactly.
I
So
gotcha.
they call to see. They don't like agents getting involved too much, so I wait to hear what it is. If I have to get involved, I do get involved where I can, but a lot of times it just takes its own course of action.
Okay. Now, what is aside from calling you, what is one of the biggest things that somebody can do when shopping insurance for the first time? A new homeowner, somebody just got their license. What should they be looking for, and what are some of the best things that they can do when they're shopping for?
You should know what the coverages are. So I always do it. I always go over the entire quote that I give you, line item by line item, explaining what each coverage is for. So you can compare your quote. So if you are shopping around and you're looking at a few different things, if one doesn't have replacement cost on contents, that's a big deal. Now, some agents leave it off because it's about $200 to $300 a year. So their quote looks a lot more pretty than mine does. However, if you have a fire or you have a water loss, they're gonna give you the actual cash value on your contents. So your socks, your underwear, your used shoes, not really sure how much value those items have, but they cost a lot of money to replace.
Yeah.
Correct. So you wanna make sure little things like that are in there. Water backup, if the sewers or drains back up into the house, that's something people leave off. That is gross.
Yeah, that could be a big remediation.
It can be big, and a lot of companies don't have the coverage or they leave it off, and I don't think anyone would be very happy with me if they didn't realize they didn't have that coverage.
Yeah, what do you mean I'm not covered for this? It's homeowners insurance.
but
It's in my home.
Yeah, no. So make sure you know what they are. Most people, I feel, don't like to tell you they don't know what it is because they feel like they're an adult, they're buying a home, they should know what it is, but there's no way you could know what something is unless you've seen it or learned it before. So that's why I go over everything with people. There's, I hate to say it, there's no dumb questions, but there really isn't dumb questions. So we go over it, and sometimes you don't realize things are included. Like if you get sued for defamation of character, did you know you have that coverage on your homeowner's insurance?
That's a fun fact. I did not know that.
Yeah, so those are big things that people don't realize that are in there. It's called personal injury, so most people think it's if I personally get injured. No, it's injury of character.
That's interesting, and that's one of those things where, like you said, it's the experience, it's being through it, it's understanding it, and we see it all the time. Even from a pre-approval standpoint, when somebody goes to buy a home, I can just input my information here. Boom! Oh, I got a pre-approval. Yes. Well, now you don't really know. You don't know what you don't know, and now you're kind of behind the 8 ball. Whereas going to a local professional, somebody who can kind of give you a guide and explain everything to you is invaluable. So if you are a first-time home buyer, or if you're looking for auto insurance, just getting your license, contact somebody who has experience. Contact Katy. Contact somebody that you know and you trust, because you can save yourself thousands of dollars and stuff. I'm sure you've seen and heard some crazy insurance stories out there. Anything in particular that jumps out to you, like just a fun story to share with the viewers? Or interesting. Doesn't have to necessarily be fun. That's not really the right adjective.
Yeah, usually they're not. Some of them aren't good stories, so I won't share those ones.
Well, it could be even like a situation where, because of insurance and the time frame and fixing that house, fixing the car, a situation that maybe started out gloomy and kind of turned around. None particular?
No.
Okay.
I usually try to keep them good from the beginning.
Yeah, every story.
Usually the gloomy ones are like a claim that got denied because the guy bought all the materials to fix the claim before the claim happened.
Okay, so now that's an interesting story to me. So somebody they kind of jumped the gun. They got a little eager beaver.
No, they were committing insurance fraud.
Oh.
So they went out and they bought all the stuff to remodel the bathroom and then said the pipe burst, and that's why they had to fix everything.
Okay.
So those are the type, I hate to say, but those are the type of stories that I'm like, okay, yeah, well, no, I can't get that approved because it's fraud.
Yeah, I mean, I can completely get behind that. Fraud increases everybody else's rates.
Yes.
I totally went the other way. I thought your homeowner was really excited to get going and everything, and went out and got everything, and it just kind of put the cart before the horse there. But
yeah,
okay.
I will say for some people buying houses, to make sure that you run the water. Make sure you flush the toilets.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you turn the washing machine on, and if there is no washing machine, find out why.
Yeah.
Because I have had people buy houses and they don't realize that the waistline from the washing machine was plumbed to the toilet.
So you had to flush the toilet essentially from the washing machine.
The builder lovely left out the washing machine so they couldn't test it. Now she had a flood in her house because it was plumbed wrong. It was completely, so just things
awful.
like that. And I know you as a realtor, I know you're going to double check all that, and you would not be working with anyone that would do those type of things. But those are things, do your due diligence. Don't always just trust that everybody did the right thing.
And I think a bunch of things like that, and I know for a fact that there were issues along those lines that came up, especially in 2021, where a lot of people were just so eager to get into a home that they forego an inspection. Don't always do an inspection. Yeah. I'm sorry, buy it as is. That's fine, but do an inspection.
Yep.
And you end up in a situation like that. That's awful. Plumbed to the toilet, and then you get a flood. And guess whose insurance had to take care of it? I'm sure.
No, she did not file a claim.
She couldn't file a claim.
No, because it was in the first. If you file a claim within the first 60 days of having a policy, they can and will drop you. Why would
we need 2 months of premium first before we'll pay
They
out.
can't get off a policy after 60 days in New York for 3 years.
Wow.
Those are the rules. So they can non-renew you every 3 years. But if you're on for 60 days, then they're on for 3 years. So if a claim happens in the first 60 days in homeowners, yep.
Now, what does a homeowner do in that? Does something, they obviously have to find a new homeowner's policy. Now, does that hurt them and kind of carry along with the property?
It's gonna increase the rate because you have a claim on you now. So this is why you have an agent that you can speak to and figure out the lay of the land and what you should do and make an educated decision.
That's awesome. I mean, I just love, chatting with you because, you're here for the people. You're here to help educate, inform, and guide them. It's what this podcast, video series is all about. It's, putting people in touch with somebody who knows their industry, knows what they're talking about, and can truly help them accomplish their goals. And Katy, I really thank you very much for coming on and chatting with us. There will be links and information to get in touch with us in the description. And if you have any questions about homeowners, auto, bundling any insurance, Katy is the person you want to talk to. And if you have any questions about buying or selling real estate, I'd love to have a conversation with you. All the contact info is in the bottom of our description. Thanks for watching. Cheers.
Thanks.